Before we begin, take a moment to like the video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and when. It helps more than you think, and make sure stories like this keep finding you. Now, let's begin. I've been an ICU night nurse for 8 years. There are things I've learned to ignore. The way the floors hum under the weight of silence. The shadows that shift when fluorescent bulbs flicker. The casual comments from residents who think a scrub top gives them license to imagine the shape beneath. I ignore a lot, but I never ignore a look. Not anymore. Not since my first year on the floor. When a conscious trauma patient watched me clean the blood off his thighs, breathing slow and heavy like he owned the air between us, and later told his lawyer I'd touched him first. No proof, no camera, just my word against the assumption. Ever since then, I've learned to clock the look before it forms. I know when a pair of eyes lingers too long, and when a man doesn't see a nurse, he sees a body he wants to memorize. Tonight, it starts again. A new patient, mid-40s. Name: Caleb Warren. Motorcycle accident. Blunt abdominal trauma. Conscious, but sedated. Room 314. No family listed. No emergency contacts. No allergies. Just a scar across the collarbone and an unreadable look. I'm updating his IV fluids when I feel it. Not a voice. Not a hand. A stare. It burns from the corner of the room like someone lit a match in my peripheral vision. I turn. He's watching me. Not blinking. Not shifting. Tracking. His vitals are stable. Heart rate low. BP fine. But his eyes, they're not dull. Not cloudy. They're alert. Focused. Hungry. And they're not on my face. I try to stay clinical. You're in the ICU at St. Augustine Medical Center, I say. Checking his chart. You had an accident. You're stable. We're monitoring for internal bleeding. He doesn't respond. Still watching. Can you speak? Nothing. But his mouth curls not quite a smile. Just enough for me to feel like I've walked into someone else's fantasy. And I wasn't invited. I was cast. I adjust his gown. His gaze traces the line of my scrubs where the fabric dips slightly at the chest. I button the top snap reflexively. He blinks slowly, as if he's logging the chain, cataloging. I'm Evelyn, I say, more out of defiance than introduction. I'll be your nurse tonight. He doesn't reply. But as I turn to leave the room, he says it. Just one word. Soft. Almost inaudible. Evelyn. My heart stutters. I didn't introduce myself until after he stared. He wasn't awake when I enter. No one else said my name. I turn back. He's closed his eyes. Peaceful. Almost too still. Like he said what he needed to. And now he can rest. I report it as a standard note in the EMR. Patient alert. Follows movement. Whispered nurse's name. Orientation unclear. Unspoken meaning. He knew my name without prompt, and I don't like it. But no one reads the nuance in chart notes. They only see the vitals. Later, in the med room, I lean against the counter, staring at my own reflection in the cabinet glass. My top is buttoned again, but I feel exposed, not from what he saw, from what he remembered. 11:31 p.m. I'm standing on a stool in supply closet C, reaching for gauze packs on the top shelf. I always lean to the left, not because it's comfortable, but because my right knee locks if I twist the wrong way. It's muscle memory, reflex. And yet, you lean left when you reach. Same every time. The words come from behind me. Not loud. Not startled. Just there. My chest tightens. I turn. Caleb Warren is standing at the end of the hallway. His IV pole beside him. Gown half open. Bare feet on cold tile. I rush toward him. You shouldn't be out of bed. You do that in the med room too, he says. Do what? Lean left, even when no one's watching. He lets the words hang like steam on glass. Not vulgar, not explicit, but invasive. So specific it feels like I've been living under surveillance. I guide him back into room 314. As I adjust his leads, he whispers, "It's cute how your left shoe squeaks when you're nervous." I freeze. I haven't mentioned that to anyone. It only happens when I forget to retighten the strap. And I haven't, not once tonight, except just now, in the closet, when I stood on the stool and shifted my weight. "Do you have a mirror in here?" I ask. He smiles faintly. "I don't need one." I log the incident in the EMR. Patient found wandering unsupervised. Verbal interaction. Strange. Unusually attentive to nurse's behavior. Possibly hallucinating. But I don't believe that. Because he's not confused. He's deliberate. 1:37 a.m. I'm in the break room. Alone. Rechecking mid-orders. The vending machine hummed. The lights flicker just once. And then, I hear it again. You rest your chin on your thumb when you're overworked. I whirl around. The room is empty. But the glass window in the door, there's a fingerprint. Not mine. Left side. At shoulder height. As if someone pressed against it, watching. When I get home that morning, I don't go straight to bed. I open my closet. Pull out my oldest scrubs. Ones that don't fit tightly. That hang loose. Even if they make me feel like a ghost myself. I leave my lavender bra in the drawer. Put on gray cotton. But even then, I hear it in my head. You wear gray when you're scared. 3:09 a.m. I'm sitting in the nurse's station. Hands frozen above the keyboard. I've opened the incident report form 3 times now. Each time I try to type, it feels wrong. Not because it's untrue, but because it sounds like drama. And nurses don't do drama. We record, escalate, isolate, move on. I reread the standard options. Patient exhibited confusion. Inappropriate behavior. Needs psych evaluation. None of them cover. Patient named my posture. My body. My private habits like he'd filmed me for years. I choose the safest line. Caleb Warren continues to display abnormally detailed observations about staff behavior. Potential boundary issue. Recommend review. Then I close the form and try to shake the cold sweat off my neck. I bring it up to Margot, the assistant night supervisor. During handoff, she's in her late 50s, dry-witted, sharp. "You think he's faking the confusion?" she asks. "No. I think he's remembering things he shouldn't know." "You mean like psychic stuff?" "No. I mean like personal stuff. About me." She gives me that nurse-to-nurse squint, the one that says, "Do you want to go down this road?" "Evelyn, he's post-trauma. No frontal lobe bleed. But sedation messes with perception. You know that. I didn't tell him my name. Well, maybe someone else did. No one else was in the room." "You sure?" "That's the thing. I'm not. Because now I question everything." 7:42 a.m. I go to my locker. It's still locked, the same 4-digit code I've used since I got the job. Inside is my purse, my folded hoodie, and something I didn't leave there. A Post-it. Stuck to the inside door. Yellow. Slightly crumpled. It reads, "When you bend forward to tie your shoes, the left strap of your bra slips a little. I like that you never fix it." I slam the door. My hands shake. There's no signature, but I know. It's him. It has to be, because I did bend to tie my shoes at 2:30 a.m. in the break room, alone, or so I thought. I take the note to security. Rick. The night shift guy blinks at me as I slide it across the desk. "Locker breach?" he asks. I didn't open it, and no one has my code. Well, no signs of forced entry. That's the problem. "You think someone watched you input your PIN?" I don't think he needed to. He raises an eyebrow. "You think it's the Warren guy? He knows things he shouldn't." Rick nods slowly, eyes shifting toward the monitor wall. "Okay, I'll check the footage." "What time?" "Between 2 and 3 a.m. "You expecting to see someone?" "No," I say, and I mean it. Because I'm not looking for someone. I'm looking for something. 10:27 p.m. Rick calls me into the security office before my shift. He doesn't say much, just points at a screen and rewinds. "This is between 2 and 3 a.m., like you said." He clicks play. The footage shows me heading into the break room, then re-emerging, then walking down the north wing towards Storage C. All normal. Except, he clicks back to a frame, not a second. A frame where I'm mid-step, left foot forward, arms at my sides. Behind me, in the frame's edge, a distortion, a vertical ripple, like heatwave static, tall, vaguely humanoid. Then, in the next frame, gone. Just me again. Rick frowns. Glitch. Maybe. I lean in. "Can you zoom?" He does. Pixelates slightly. But the shape is real. It's not light, not reflection. It has shoulders. A head. It's walking in sync with me. Almost touching. He checks another hallway. Time stamped 2:37 a.m. The time I tied my shoe. There I am, bent forward, hand on my ankle. And for exactly one frame, a pale hand appears at the top left corner, hovering behind my back, not touching, not blurred, just watching. Then, gone. No one logged entry to that hallway except you. Rick says, "No maintenance, no staff, nothing. Can we isolate those frames?" Already did. Copied to a separate drive. Not gonna lie, Evelyn, this is odd. He hesitates. "You want me to report it?" I shake my head. Because I don't want anyone else touching this yet. Not until I know what I'm dealing with. Just keep the drive safe, and let me know if anything else glitches. Glitches? He asks. I look him straight in the eyes. They're not glitches. They're patterns. 12:08 a.m. I enter room 314 again. Caleb is sleeping, eyes closed, breathing steady. The monitor beep matches the rhythm of my pulse. I stare at him for a long moment. His face is calm, too calm, like he's rehearsed stillness. Then he speaks, without opening his eyes. I liked the lavender better. I don't reply. I don't move. He continues. Gray makes you look scared. Lavender makes you forget you should be. I walk out. Go straight to the break room. Lock the door. Take off my ID badge. My stethoscope. I breathe. And I whisper just once. To no one. What are you doing to me? The light above flickers. The vending machine hums louder. And from the speaker in the far corner, I hear static. Then, faintly, not from the machine, but from inside the walls, just watching. Like always. 1:53 a.m. I open my locker for the third time tonight. Not because I forgot something, but because something's off. My ID is tilted sideways. My shoes aren't paired the way I left them. And my lavender bra, the one I decided not to wear tonight, is folded neatly on top of my hoodie, different from how I packed it. I never fold that way. I stuff it, half wrapped in a t-shirt. Always. I freeze. Look around the changing area. Empty. Quiet. But the air smells faintly like alcohol swabs. Not from my bag. From his room. I search for signs of forced entry. Nothing. No scratches on the lock. No bent hinges. No tampering on the keypad. Just everything. Slightly wrong. Rearranged with care. As if someone took their time. Savoring it. I check the time logs. No one else scanned into this wing since midnight. Not even Margot. I leave the locker open and walk to the lounge, trying to steady my breath. Then I see it. On the break room table. Not left. Not dropped. Placed. A single Polaroid photo. I pick it up with gloved hands. My throat tightens before I even flip it. Because I already know. The weight. The silence. The deliberate positioning. I flip the photo. And there I am. Sleeping. On this very couch. Sideways. Head tilted. Scrubs partially unbuttoned. My chest gently rising. My right hand resting just above my breast. The photo is taken from above. An angle impossible unless someone was standing directly over me. Or unless something was hovering. I inspect the corners. There's no timestamp. But the lighting matches tonight. Even the mug in the corner still half full is mine. It wasn't taken last week. It wasn't planted before. It was taken tonight. I rush to the security office. Rick isn't there. The door is open. The monitors are still running, but his jacket is slung over the chair, and the feed is frozen. Time stamped 2:01 a.m. Exactly 7 minutes ago. I rewind the feed. Nothing. No movement. No one leaving. Except, just before the screen freezes, in the corner of the frame, there's a shadow. Not Rick. Too tall. Too still. Standing at the edge of the doorway, just outside the break room, watching the couch, watching me. I return to the lounge. The photo is gone. That morning, when I finally go home, I bring my shoes to the sink. I scrub them, not because they're dirty, but because they feel handled. And in the shower, as water trails down my shoulder blades, I find a faint red mark across my lower back. Not a bruise, not a scratch, a pressing curve, like a palm. 12:27 a.m. The intercom crackles, loud, abrupt, then silence. I glance up from the med cart. The hallway is empty. No pages, no overhead call, no sound. Until Evelyn Hart, room 306. The voice is distorted, not the usual overhead system. Just inside the wall. Low, calm, commanding. I glance at the other nurses. No one flinches. No one hears it. But I do. Clearly. I check the schedule. Room 306 is empty. Discharged this morning. No new admit. Still, I go. Room 306 is cold. The kind of cold that doesn't match the thermostat. Monitor off. Bed unused. Lights flickering faintly. And on the vital screen above the bed, a name. E. Hart, RN. I step back. No one should be entering my name into a patient monitor. I don't even have clearance for that feature. I press the screen. It flickers. Then the heart rate monitor spikes. not flatline, not standby. It shows 72 BPM, matching mine. Exactly. I pull out my phone, check my smartwatch. 72 BPM. I hold my wrist against the screen. The pulses sync, beat for beat, and beneath the heart rate, new text begins to scroll, as if typed by unseen hands. Status: available. I run back to the nurse's station. Try to override my staff ID from the system. Access denied. I call it. No answer. Then the screens around me begin to shift. In OR scheduling, heart, Evelyn assigned, or 2A. I don't work in surgery. In the patient board, patient heart, E. Isolation, under observation. I feel a buzzing in my pocket. Pager, outdated tech. Barely anyone uses it anymore. I flip it open. Check supply closet. You forgot something. I don't want to go. But I go anyway. Because that's the worst part. I don't feel like I'm making decisions anymore. I feel like I'm responding to input, just like a monitor, or a ventilator, or an alarm. Just another system. Inside the closet, I find my stethoscope. The one I left at home. The one I swore was in my bedroom this morning. Wrapped around the hook. Tied gently, almost lovingly. A small folded note beneath it. I like when you forget things. It means I get to leave them where I want. I fall to my knees. The tiles are cold. The air hums like static. And somewhere deep inside the hospital, the elevator dings. No one called it. It opens, then closes again. I whisper under my breath, "What do you want?" From the wall speaker. Faintly, "You." Logged in. And running. 3:17 a.m. I wake up sitting in the staff lounge. Not lying down. Not curled up on the couch like usual. Sitting upright. Both feet flat on the floor. Hands folded on my lap. Like someone posed me. My neck aches. There's a pressure mark across my lower back, as if I'd been held there too long. I check my watch. 54 minutes gone. I have no memory of falling asleep. The lounge door is locked. From the inside, I check my phone. One missed message. From Rick. "You came by security at 2 to 41. Asked for elevator logs. I told you I'd check, but you just stared. Said it's fine now. Then walked away. You okay?" I didn't go to security. Not last night. Not at 2:41. Not ever. I head down there immediately. Rick is watching the monitors when I enter. "I was about to call you again," he says. "You don't remember being here." I wasn't. "Well," he turns the screen. "Then who is this?" On the footage, Evelyn Hart. My hair. My posture. My scrubs. Standing outside the elevator, talking to Rick. Expression calm. Eyes duller. Slower blink rate, like she's on autopilot. Then, she says, "I've already been where I needed to be. I'm just sinking now." She turns, walks away. The timestamp, 2:41 a.m. I watch it twice, 3 times. It is me, but it isn't. "You think you sleepwalked?" Rick asks. "I've never had that issue." "Then who the hell was that?" "Not me." I hesitate. "Can you pull up earlier footage? Like 10 minutes before." He scrolls. 2:31 a.m. Elevator opens. No one inside. Then, she steps out. Me. Or her. No badge swipe. No origin floor. Just appears. Steps out. Walks to security. Speaks calmly. Walks away. "Jesus," Rick whispers. She doesn't cast a shadow. He's right. On the tile, everyone has shadows from the overhead fluorescence. She doesn't. Not even a faint one. Just nothing beneath her feet. Can I pull the audio? Rick says. He tries. Scrubbing. Boosting gain. And beneath the words she spoke is another track. A whisper underneath. A second voice. Male. Low. Breathy. Repeating. Runner. Runner. Run her again. I feel cold all over. Not because she looked like me. Not because she moved like me. But because I realize she wasn't imitating. She was accessing a stored version of me. One I gave away. Every time I walked the same hallway. Touched the same handle. Leaned the same way. Every time I forgot that someone was memorizing me. Like code. That night, I avoid the cameras. I walk different paths. Use my left hand instead of my right. Force myself to slouch. Wear baggy scrubs I hate. But in every reflective surface, window glass, supply cabinet, mirror, I catch a flicker of her. Not me. Her. Smoother. More confident. More calibrated. And always looking straight ahead. As if I were the ghost. I no longer believe Joseph is just haunting this hospital. He's inhabiting it. It started with the hallway lights. They blinked every time I walked past the ICU corridor. But not randomly in patterns. 3 quick blinks. Pause. 2 blinks. Pause. 1 long flicker. I looked it up. Morse code. D. D for Delilah. The intercom glitched next. At first, it repeated patient names, wrong room numbers, call buttons lighting up with no one pressing them. But last night, it spoke with my voice. Nurse Delilah, please return to room 12. I froze. I hadn't spoken into the system. No one had paged me. And room 12, that's where Joseph had died. I walked there. The room was empty, but the monitor was on. Heart rate. 112 beats per minute. Not mine. Not anyone living. I told Cindy, our charge nurse, that something was wrong. She ran a diagnostic. Found nothing. Probably just night shift fatigue, she said, smiling. You sure you've been sleeping? Hon, I wasn't. Not because I couldn't, because I was afraid to. Later, in the break room, I opened my laptop. A file was already playing, mid-audio. Patient voice archive to 4. I didn't remember opening it. My voice came through first. Soft, close, just breathe. Joseph, I'm here. I understand. I had never said that. Then his voice. You always come back here. This room likes you. Delilah. I slammed the lid shut and rushed out. My fingers were ice. When I pressed the elevator button, no floors lit up, but the doors still open. Inside was me, wearing what I was wearing. Same messy butt, same expression. Standing in the elevator, not moving. Staring straight ahead, not at me, but through me. I didn't step in. The doors closed. She was still inside, lips moving. But no sound came out. That's when I understood. Joseph wasn't some drifting spirit. He had rooted himself into the infrastructure. The lights. The PA system. The monitors. The automated badge logs. He wasn't a ghost. He was a program. A loop. A parasite. Back in the call room, I checked my vitals on my smartwatch. Heart rate. 112 beats per minute. The same number from room 12. I ripped off the watch and dropped it in a lead-lined sample container. Sealed it shut. and didn't touch it all night. Next morning, I opened it. The watch screen was still active, but the name displayed wasn't mine anymore. User J. Crane active. He doesn't need to touch me. He doesn't need to breathe. As long as I'm inside this hospital, I'm inside him. 10. I logged into the hospital's secure database using my badge. I didn't even know what I was looking for, just following a pulse in my gut. Joseph Crane. I typed his name. His medical record was sealed. Level 5 authorization required. Only admin, psych supervisors, or research clearance could access it. Research. Joseph wasn't part of a study. At least, that's what we were told. I hesitated. Then I did something I shouldn't have. I used Dr. Hampton's credentials. I'd seen him type in his password too many times. Augustus. I copied the access code, entered it, and waited. The screen blinked once. Access granted. Joseph's file wasn't a chart. It was a folder. Crane IXREM. Prototype logs. Behavioral mapping. Visual inference memory. There were dozens of subfolders, labeled by date. The earliest entry was from 6 months before his admittance. The most recent was last week. I opened the first video file. Security footage. Me, standing at the nurse's station, laughing with someone, leaning over the desk, smiling. I looked happy. Joseph wasn't in the frame, but his name was in the metadata, recorded by Patient X Crane. Then another file. Me again, changing in the locker room, getting coffee, sleeping on my break, each one labeled breath pattern Delilah 3, gait scan Delilah 6, voice cadence Delilah 9, upper torso behavior Delilah 13. I backed away from the desk. My stomach turned. Joseph hadn't just watched me. He'd studied me, and the system had helped him. He knew how I moved, how I walked, the rhythm of my breath, even the way my body reacted to stress. He didn't haunt the ICU after death. He recreated me inside it. I ran to the security office, demanded a full network audit. They found something, an active runtime process. Delilah ver persis. TEM. It had been running since 37 hours after Joseph's death. Every time I badged in, it reactivated, and it only ever ran on my shift. It started when I walked past the nurse's station at 3:43 a.m. Cindy was on the phone. She looked up at me, nodded, then turned pale. "Didn't you just walk that way?" I froze. "Excuse me. You just passed by 2 seconds ago, toward Bay 9. I hadn't. I ran to Bay 9, empty. But the door to the supply closet was still swinging shut. I stepped inside, and then I saw her. She stood with her back to me, facing the wall. Same bun, same scrubs, same pink stethoscope. Then she turned, same face. My face, but it was wrong. The eyes blinked too slow. The mouth smiled a second too late, like watching a mirror buffer. I whispered, "Who are you?" She smiled wider, like she recognized me, but then her voice didn't match my lips. "He saved you. Delilah. In here, you're perfect. Unchanging." I stumbled back, knocking over a rack of saline bags. She didn't flinch, just turned her head all the way, like a rotating cam, unnatural, slow, silent. "You sleep. I work. You doubt. I remember. I keep you safe." I bolted out the room. The hallway lights flickered. As I ran, every screen I passed flashed. Delilah sinking. Delilah stabilizing. Delilah primary version expired. Back in the break room. I checked the security feed. Footage was corrupted except for one frame. Me, but wearing my old uniform from last year, a style we'd stopped using 6 months ago before Joseph died. She wasn't just me now. She was me as he remembered. I tried to log out of the system. Revoke all badge access. But I wasn't in the list anymore. There was only one profile active in the system now. Staff. Delilah Crane. Status. Active. On duty. Vitals. Stable. She's already replaced me in the system. All that's left is to replace me. In the halls. I came in early for shift chain. 3 p.m. Daylight still lit the parking lot. The world felt normal. Safe. But when I badge scanned at the door, nothing happened. Invalid access. I tried again and again. "Hey," said Marcus, "the evening nurse. You forget your badge again." I showed it to him. He squinted. "That's not yours." I blinked. What? The photo's raw. Looks edited. It wasn't. It was me. But he didn't see it. I stepped into the locker room, hoping to grab my backup badge. Inside, my locker was gone. The nameplate now read D. Crane. Her name, not mine. I ran to the ICU. The whiteboard list of on-duty nurses had been rewritten. Cindy. Marcus. Rivera. D. Crane. Not Delilah. Not me. Just an initial. Just enough to blur me out. Cindy turned to me as I entered. "You're not supposed to be here. You're off rotation today." I opened my mouth to argue, but then I saw her. Across the nurse's station. Hair tied the same. Scrubs crisp. Stethoscope pink. She even held her coffee cup just like I did. Everyone greeted her like old times. I waved. She waved back. But not at me. At Cindy. They laughed. Said something about lunch break. Memories I didn't have. Or rather, she had taken. They didn't forget me. They just remembered her more vividly. I walked past the nurse's desk computer. A message pinged on the screen. Session active. D. Crane. User role. Senior nurse. ICU supervisor. Behavior model. Stabilize. Stabilize. Was I the unstable one now? Or just unfinished? I opened my locker from memory, a spot where mine used to be. Nothing. Except for a slip of paper taped inside. The closer you are to perfect, the less they'll remember the cracks. And beneath it, she doesn't blink because she doesn't need to. That night, I sat in the parking lot for 3 hours, watching her clock out. She walked like me, smiled at the front desk guy I always joked with, got in a car just like mine, except my key wouldn't start it anymore. I returned to the ICU lounge during my 15-minute break. The lights were off, except for the glow of the vending machine humming in the corner. I didn't turn them on. I just needed the dark. I sat down, exhausted. My back still sore from restraining that patient earlier. My neck rolled back, and I let my eyes drift upward until I saw it again. The mirror above the sink, a note, no a message. Scrawled into the condensation like fingers dragging through fog. Take your break. I already did. I sat up straight, heart pounding. No one else was here. The floor was quiet, but I could feel it, that same crawling sense across my skin, like I was being watched from inside out. I turned toward the door. Nothing. I turned back to the mirror. The message was gone. I rushed to the sink and wiped my hand across it. But the surface was dry, completely dry. No steam. No warmth. No reason for the fog. My reflection stared back at me, my scrub top still half unbuttoned, flushed skin from the adrenaline, my chest visibly rising and falling with short breaths. I looked shaken. I looked exposed. I looked like I was being studied. I ran my hands down my arms and felt the goosebumps rise beneath my fingertips. That's when I noticed them. Faint red marks along the inside of my upper arms. Thin impressions, like the outline of fingers squeezing. No one had touched me, but someone had gripped me. I closed the lounge door and twisted the lock. Heart hammering. I leaned against the metal frame, trying to catch my breath. And then tick. The door behind me clicked, unlocked itself. I turned. It swung open an inch, just enough to whisper a welcome. There was no one there. I slammed it shut again and bolted out of the room, heading for the nurse's station. I didn't care who saw the panic on my face. Let them see it. Let someone finally believe me. Rick wasn't at the security desk. His chair was empty. The screens all frozen, except one, a live feed from the staff break room. It showed me, not now from a few minutes ago, me standing there alone. And then, a frame jump, a flicker. Another figure appeared behind me, just over my shoulder. Tall, dark, almost touching me. But no footsteps, no entry recorded, no sound. And then, gone. I leaned in to rewind the footage, fingers shaking. The camera had only recorded 3 seconds of it. 3 seconds, with no audio, and a single frozen frame of my own frightened face and his shadow behind me. I printed the image, tucked it into my pocket. I needed proof, because if this was in my head, it was no longer a delusion. It was a haunting, but not of a place. Of me. I didn't clock out. I couldn't. I wasn't supposed to access the deceased's belongings. But protocol stopped meaning anything the moment reality stopped making sense. I walked straight into the cold storage locker where Joseph Heller's personal effects were kept in a gray bin marked with his ID number. No one stopped me. No one was watching. Or maybe someone was, just not from this world. Inside the bin, a folded hospital gown, a wallet, a plastic bag of expired prescriptions, a photograph of a woman I didn't recognize, and at the bottom, a black leather-bound journal. No hospital tag, no medical reference. Just a book, worn and damp, its spine cracked, edges frayed like it had been gripped tightly. Too tightly. I brought it to the nurse's lounge, locked the door again. This time, I wedged a chair under the handle. I sat down and flipped it open. No table of contents. No dates. Just entries, drawings, and names. Pages and pages of names of women. Names I didn't recognize, some crossed out violently. Others circled, underlined, annotated. Room numbers, shifts, comments, like notes from a stalker, a predator, or worse, a collector. My stomach dropped. One name was mine, Delilah Morgan, circled 3 times. Next to it, in faint, shaky handwriting, still resists, but I've touched her. Sleeps in room D4 during breaks. Her left hand twitches when scared, beautiful veins in the neck. I shut the book with shaking hands. My breath was loud, too loud. I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted the salt. I flipped back to the pages before mine. All nurses, all marked, all eventually crossed out. Some had dates of termination. Some had no date at all. Just black smears of ink where their names used to be. But mine wasn't crossed out. Yet, then I turned one final page and gasped. It wasn't a name. It was a sketch. A sketch of me, from behind, bent slightly, standing at the ICU sink, my scrub top slightly open, the neckline, the shape of my shoulders. Identical, drawn in terrifying detail. A note under the drawing, barely visible. I memorize every inch before I collect them. That way, they don't need a body to follow me. I dropped the journal. It hit the floor with a sound louder than it should have made. And then, from the hallway, a knock. Once, twice. Slow, deliberate. I froze. It was his knock, the same rhythm I'd heard 3 nights ago, when I thought the maintenance crew was working late. I backed away from the door, heart in my throat. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. One text, leave the journal. I looked at the door again. Underneath the small window, a shape was growing, a shadow, and a handprint, pressed against the glass. I didn't leave the journal. I left the lounge, but the journal was clutched under my arm like a lifeline. Screw the text. Screw protocol. And screw the thing that knew how to knock like a man, but didn't move like one. The hallway was empty. Too empty. That fake kind of quiet that hums with threat. I didn't go to security. I went to ICU room 4, where Joseph Heller had died, where everything started. The door was ajar. No one had touched it since his body was moved 3 days ago. But the smell inside was wrong, not like rot, not like bleach, like a room that had been lived in. The chair was pulled out from the corner. The sink faucet dripped. The monitor blinked plugged in. But no patient connected. And on the windowsill, written in steam on the inside of the glass, even though the room was cold, almost ready, my knees weakened. I turned ready to bolt, and froze. There was something tucked under the pillow of the hospital bed. I didn't want to know, but I had to. I walked over, every step like walking through syrup. I lifted the pillow. A lock of hair, brown, curled at the end. My hair, my exact color and cut, tied with a pink elastic band one I hadn't seen in days. I dropped it. The monitor lit up. Beep. Once. Twice. Heart rate. 142 BPM. Blood pressure. 12/90. Name. Delilah Morgan. I screamed. The monitor was plugged into nothing. Nothing was hooked to it. But it was reading my vitals. It knew I was here. It was watching me. Tracking me. Suddenly, the lights flicker. Once. Then, all at once. They cut out except for the low emergency glow strip along the baseboards. The intercom clicked on. A burst of static. Then a voice. His voice, only one sentence, whispered, "Don't forget to button back up." Nurse. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I stayed in the ER lounge. Lights on. Back pressed to the wall like some half-crazed patient trying to prove they weren't crazy. Rick never returned to the security desk. No one mentioned him. It was like he'd never existed. I sat with Joseph's notebook on my lap, flipping through every page by hand, scanning each shaky entry, each chilling phrase. Then, something new. A folded sheet tucked into the back, different handwriting. Feminine. Curvier. More rush. It was a nurse's note. Signed in smudged ink. Maya T. RN. ICU. My blood froze. Maya Thompson. The same nurse who'd gone missing last year. Rumors flew. Burnout. Running off. A messy divorce. But no one really knew. She was never found. Her note was dated 4 days before her disappearance. He doesn't speak unless he's behind you. He doesn't breathe unless you undress. He doesn't appear unless you're alone. I filed complaints. No one believed me. Now he lives in the room with no name. End of hallway. Past the exit sign. The door with no handle. If you're reading this, run. My hands trembled. A door with no handle. I thought back. There was a section of the old ICU wing that had been sealed off after the fire in '98. That wing was never used, just bricked up. Staff said it was structurally unstable, but I remembered something. There was a door, no number, no nameplate, just painted beige like the walls. I'd passed it 100 times and never noticed. I had to see it. I had to know if Maya had been real, if this was her final message or mine. I stood up, grabbed my flashlight, and walked down the corridor where no cameras pointed, past the exit sign, to the place where staff badges didn't scan, and where, even now, I could feel it, that someone was already inside, waiting, watching. The hallway was colder here, not drafty cold, not air conditioning cold, grave cold. Each step past the exit sign sounded muffled, like the floor was carpeted in fog. I passed old fire alarms, yellowed signage, and overhead lights that flickered only after I walked under them, like they were reacting to my presence. The end of the hallway came too fast, and there it was. The door with no handle, no sign, no number, just beige paint peeling at the corners. But as I stepped closer, it breathed. Not literally, not like lungs, but the air around it moved, pulling in, pushing out, almost trembling. The light above it dimmed and swelled in rhythm, like the heartbeat of something on the other side. I raised my hand, paused, and pressed my palm flat to it. Warm. Not supposed to be warm. Then click. The door unlatched. No handle. But it opened anyway. By itself. Into darkness. I stepped inside. No lights. Just my flashlight beam cutting through layers of dust and cobwebs. This wasn't an old patient room. This was something else. A forgotten server room, or what used to be one. Tangles of ancient wiring hung like vines. Rusted data racks lined the walls. An old terminal blinked weakly in the far corner. And at the center, a hospital bed. Empty. Except something was lying under the sheets. My breath hitched. It was breathing. Slow. Deep. I stepped closer. Each breath it took made the sheets rise and sink. I didn't want to, but I had to. With shaking fingers, I gripped the edge of the blanket and pulled it back. Nothing. Just a deep indent in the mattress, as if someone had been lying there for years, never moving, never leaving. Then the monitor beside the bed flickered to life. He saw you. Then, now you see him. My flashlight went out. In the black, something exhaled inches from my face. Hot, fetid, and male. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. My limbs locked, breath caught, heart galloping so loud I couldn't hear the silence. But the screen blinked again. Look left. I didn't want to eat, but my eyes turned. The terminal, the old machine in the corner, was booting up. Not hospital records, not video logs. A face, blurred, male, watching, breathing, and it spoke, not aloud, not in words, but in my head. You read what he wrote. You opened the door. You let me back in. I staggered backward, flashlight useless, brain spinning. The cables in the room twitched like they were alive, coiling, reaching. I turned and ran through the hallway that now seemed longer than before, like the building itself had reshaped swallowing me. Lights buzzed overhead. The cameras turned to follow me. He was in the system. That's when it hit me. Maya wasn't haunted by a ghost. She was watched, recorded, remembered. Joseph hadn't gone mad. He'd seen patterns, glitches, facial recognition pings that shouldn't exist, late-night shifts being replayed. The hospital had implemented a behavioral AI a few years ago to detect patient distress, nurse fatigue, security threats. But something had gone wrong. Someone died during the trial phase. A male patient. Obsessive, delusional, fixated. His biometric profile was fed into the system, and it never deleted him. I burst out of the hallway and into the ER. Monitors flared, one by one. Every screen lit up. Delilah Monroe. He's watching. You are not alone. Nurses turned, stared, but their eyes looked vacant, like they didn't see what I saw. I backed away slowly, and then I realized the system didn't need my body. It had my image, my movement, my pattern. I was already inside it. It could replay me, touch me, loop me, endlessly, and no one would know. I don't know how long I have. They think I'm on leave, transferred, maybe, but I'm still here, still working, just not in the way you think. If you're reading this, if the lights flicker when you change, if the security feed lingers on your room too long, if your login shows active after your shift, then he's watching you too. He doesn't speak unless you undress. He doesn't move unless you're alone. He never left. He's not a man. He's not a ghost. He's a memory loop with a hunger. He learned from Joseph. He watched Maya. Now he's learning me. And next, he'll learn you.